2020 schedule for Texas A&M really set up nicely because they played the three bottom teams really out of the East: Tennessee, South Carolina, and then Vanderbilt. And then they got Florida at home. So they didn't get a tough draw out of the East. Didn't have to play Georgia, didn't have to play Kentucky, didn't have to play Missouri. And then you look at what they had in the West. The West just really wasn't that good this year. Yes, they had Alabama on the road, but that was not a game they were going to win anyways. They got LSU at home. So yeah, things worked out pretty well with the schedule. Didn't have to play Ole Miss. That game got canceled. That could have been potentially a dangerous game. So they really didn't get tested a whole lot in the regular season. Again, that Florida game, that was at home. They won that one in a close game. And then Alabama was the tough game for them that obviously they lost. So we look ahead to 2021 in the schedule, and we'll see what it is going to look like. And here it is. They will begin their season with Kent State on September the 4th. Not starting in October this year, starting in September, hopefully. They will start with Kent State, and you see the rest of the schedule here. We're going to first look at who they play outside of the SEC West. So who did they get that they don't play every year? And I know you have the one crossover game, but they get Kent State, Colorado on the road, which could be interesting, New Mexico at home, and then Prairie View A&M. So really nothing too tough in the non-conference. I mean, they should take care of business in these games. Colorado was a bit of a surprise last year, but are they a team and a program that can challenge Texas A&M? Probably not. But it is on the road. It's early in the year. I guess you never know. And then out of the East, they'll play Missouri on the road. That is a potential tricky game there. It's not Georgia. It's not Florida. But Missouri might be the third best team in the East this year. And playing them on the road, that'll be a pretty tough challenge. They play South Carolina every year. That's their cross-division rival. So they'll get them at home. And, again, these are the games that they play outside of their 6 division games. Nothing too tough. They don't have a very tough schedule at all outside of the SEC West. Obviously, the SEC West is going to make your schedule tough every year. But let's go back to that schedule. And again, they'll open up on September 4th against Kent State. They will go to Colorado on the road after that on September 11th. That will be their first 2 games of the year before playing New Mexico on September 18th. So their schedule works out where they get 3 non-conference games before they ever play an SEC game. 3 games that they should be able to win, get the young quarterback some experience. That Colorado game could be a little tricky. We'll have to kind of wait and see what that Colorado team looks like. But these 3 games should be wins for Texas A&M. Arkansas after that, that's where they will open up SEC play on September 25th, of course, playing in Arlington. Could be a pretty tough test. Arkansas has a lot coming back this year. That game seems to always be close. I don't know what it is about that matchup, but it seems like every year they play, it's close. This past year, it was 42-31 in favor of Texas A&M. That was really one of the bigger margins of victory that we have seen in this series since Texas A&M has come into the SEC. So we'll find out. Will that game be back to being one of those close down to the wire type games, or will A&M take care of business, or will it potentially go the other way? Will Arkansas maybe win the game easily? That will be an interesting one there. And then we go into the month of October. They open up that month with Mississippi State at home. Don't have to deal with the Cowbells. They will get the Bulldogs at home. And then after that, they play Alabama on October 9th at home. And I think that is a big opportunity for Texas A&M. Alabama could be vulnerable this year. They get them at home. They have some games under their belt to where they should be playing in a pretty good rhythm by this point. Big game, big game. Circle that one on October the 9th. If A&M is going to have a chance to win the SEC West, they will have to beat Alabama. They'll play Missouri after that. This is a pretty tough stretch. No buys in here. Missouri on October 16th. Just talked about that game on the road. That'll be a pretty tough matchup. And then South Carolina after that on October 23rd. So you're talking about no bye weeks going all the way from Kent State to South Carolina, and then just looking in the SEC going from Arkansas, Mississippi State, Alabama, Missouri, South Carolina. 5 SEC games in a row. No bye week. No real easy game there. South Carolina shouldn't be great. Mississippi State, I don't think, is going to be able to beat Texas A&M, but there won't be any easy games in there. I mean, it's not like you're going to be playing any backups more than likely in those 5 games. So that'll be a tough stretch for the Aggies, and if they can come through that one, and obviously beat Alabama and win the rest of these games, they're going to be sitting in great shape heading into the month of November. So after the bye week, they will get Auburn next on November 6th. The game is at home for Texas A&M, which seems like a good thing. But if you look back at this series, since A&M has come into the SEC, it seems like the away team wins almost every time. I have no idea why. So that may not be an advantage for Texas A&M, but when we talk about these trends and things, everybody says, well, no, it's an advantage. It's still an advantage. I don't care what's happened in the past. It's still an advantage. You'd rather play Auburn at home than on the road, and they will get this game at home. Auburn's a team that has a lot of question marks. We really don't know what to expect with the new head coach, but definitely a winnable game for Texas A&M. And then there comes a game after that against Ole Miss on November 13th. I just mentioned a little bit ago, they did not play Ole Miss this past year. That game got canceled. They will play the Rebels, and they'll play them on the road this year. This could be a very, very tough test. If they get through those 5 SEC games earlier in the year, this might be their toughest back-to-back right here. Auburn and Ole Miss. Now, Alabama, Missouri, that one might have a slight advantage, but those 2 back-to-backs, Alabama and Missouri, and then Auburn and Ole Miss, that's going to be the season for Texas A&M, in my opinion. Big games here against a very good Ole Miss team, a very good offense. We'll see what the Aggies look like by this point in the season, if they're going to be favored in that game, or maybe it's a game that really could go either way. Should be a good one, and again, a good back-to-back couple of games there, Auburn and Ole Miss. Prairie View A&M comes up next on November 20th. FCS team should not be an issue at all for the Aggies. And then a big game to close out the season. It's on the road at LSU, November 27th. We have seen some great games in this series already. You go back to last year, A&M was supposed to win easily. LSU played them pretty tough. Death Valley is a very tough place to play. This could potentially be a game between 2 top 10, top 15 teams. I think it might be one of the biggest games of the year, potentially. Now, both teams have an opportunity to really step up this year and have great years. I think there is also the opportunity for both teams to not be great, but they're going to be good, and I think this will be a great matchup to close out the season. So you see, the schedule is not all that tough when you talk about the games outside of the division, but then you start looking at the SEC West, and you look at Alabama, you look at Auburn potentially, Ole Miss on the road, LSU on the road, an improved Arkansas team. Just because of the division that they're in, this still is a pretty tough schedule. Missouri on the road, another game that could be tough, and it's right after playing Alabama. How many times does a team lose to Alabama and then lose the next week? Look it up. It happens all the time. You put so much into a game against the Crimson Tide, a lot of times they can beat teams twice, and it's happened throughout the Nick Saban era at Alabama. So those 2 games will be big. Alabama, Missouri, Auburn, Ole Miss will be big, and then LSU to close it out. Those 5 games probably will determine how the season goes for the Aggies in 2021.